it's Drybear. And we've got another First Descendant patch. This one a little bit juicier as far as like hot fixes, you know, post-update updates that we've got for the game in general. Something that I think people will be pretty excited about it, so let's dive into the changes. First thing is a change to the overall monster HP inside of the Supermassive Receptor, specifically when you're in a party or squad. And this one gets real spicy. It's to the point where like I usually try to jump into groups no matter what I'm doing, just because a lot of times you get newer players that are cycling in, people that don't have full builds yet, and it's nice to be able to share the wealth and help people out. However, I've started doing the Supermassive Receptor dungeon solo almost exclusively prior to this update. I need to try it again in group, but specifically because they took infinitely longer, partially just because of, you know, you still have people that come into those queued up without a full build made, but you also, a lot of the mobs, especially the last boss in Supermassive, were so unbelievably tanky that it just took forever to finish them off, especially if you were unlucky enough to be, you know, one of the 4 people that has a build that's actually putting out DPS. A lot of times you can get kind of screwed over that way. However, in this case, they say overall monster HP, not specifically just the boss in general, but it's pretty nice that at least they're kind of paying attention to this because it was pretty oversaturated. Next, they added acquisition sources for the Ancestor Modules, that box, that red box that gives you Ancestor Modules. They added acquisition sources for it. I think this is super necessary because there's going to be a lot of people that want to farm their modules every single day so they get the best ones possible. Some people don't know that you get, you know, 1 for each of your first Sigma sector high risk of the day, or you can go do Axion and things like that, or Supermassive. There's a lot of different sources for getting them that you want to be regularly farming if that's what you're trying to accomplish to get the best possible rolls that you can. So they also added a small chance to acquire them when defeating commanders in Axion Plains, Void Vessel medium-sized, or Supermassive Receptor. And I actually did get, like just before this video, I did get a red module, a Ancestor Module drop inside of Axion Plains just for killing a commander, so it is working. Which I think all of this is going in line of the big critique that we've had for the game in general, and them creating content silos and really trying to hyper-focus you into doing one thing over and over instead of trying to encourage you to do multiple in general, which is pretty rough. So by spreading it out, giving you more sources, more things to do, you have a list of daily and weekly activities that you're doing, so you're logging on just to be on for the day and then working through your grind that way, which I think is the correct way to do it. The first major in that point is adding, this is crazy, so they're adding in, so for the ultrafine particle alloy and the photon quantum crystal, which are farms for the 2 first swords, we had Shadow and Deus Ex Manus, those were the biggest, like, critical path for farming those 2 swords, and was the major source of complaint for farming them in the medium Void Vessel in general. So now what they've done is they made it so when you complete Axion Plains missions, you will get 2 of each of them, and you also get it for the Broken Battery mission completion of Sigma sectors. So actually, you can get a good, like, even just jumping on doing your 2 Sigma sectors of the day and doing a couple, you know, operations inside of Axion Plains a day, you can get an extra 10 to 20 of these each every single day, which is awesome and makes a big difference in you being able to diversify the activities that you're doing. And on top of that, they added the same thing for the new writhing organic matter, which again is the major limiting factor for getting Harris. You usually, by the time you have enough of the organic matter to make Harris, you already have tons of each of the blueprints unless you get super unlucky. So that's going great there. So you have Axion Plains commanders, you still get the writhing organic matter, and then same for medium vessel on normal and hard difficulty, you get more of them. And what's even more diabolical of them to do this is the new tactical rifle, the Hive Master, uses the same material as Harris. And so really the game has just become farming these purple materials in order to craft the things that you're looking for in order to finish the build you're after, which is just crazy. So it's nice that they diversified this with this hotfix. Next, when it comes to Harris, some of the functions of crushing focus when the modification module focus supervision time is equipped have been changed. It used to be when using a skill you auto reload. Now they've changed it so that when using a skill you get the status crushing focus, which when crushing focus is active, it instantly reloads weapons with available rounds the moment the magazine magazine reaches 0 and increases movement speed while firing. However, weapons do not reload if no rounds are available. So I think they probably had some server-side issues with this happening immediately rather than when the rounds empty out, especially when you're using something else and you're not firing at the time, and you get into some animations where you're trying to pull out a weapon after using an ability and things like that. This probably just makes more sense just having it work this way, and also just having the movement speed, which is pretty cool. Next, they made a change to all of the swords. I'm only gonna have on screen Shadow here, but the change is the same for Deus Ex Manus and for Hypernova as well. So in the last patch, they beefed up the base sprint speed for all of the swords from 800 to 1040, and then with this patch, they're beefing it down, so they're unbeefing it. So the base sprint speed on all the swords has gone down back to 800, so 1040 to 800 here. However, along with this change, they're making the change that a base sprint speed increase modifier has been added of 30%. Now, I think what they're trying to do here is a higher base means that when you get a percentile increase from other sources, it can give you a bigger boost of overall raw movement speed. So what they're trying to do here is by making the base lower and then putting in a secondary, potentially additive scaler for sprint speed. It means that your other sources are going to have less of an impact, but hopefully it means that you can kind of reach similar levels as long as you have the right sources available. So all of the swords, Shadow, Deus Ex Manus, and Hypernova, have had their base sprint speed reduced, but have added a base sprint speed increase modifier of 30% across the board. I haven't tested to see if this is exactly the same, but let me know how you feel about it using your swords after the patch. Now, following this, the director Min-Seok put a comment out on this issue specifically, as it does target some characters over others. So they identified an issue where the sprint speed of certain descendants, specifically Haley, was unintentionally matching that of Bunny. So Haley was pretty freaking fast. It was actually pretty fun. This occurred during the process of increasing melee weapon sprint speeds, and it resulted in behavior that deviated from their intentions, ultimately conflicting with our goal of preserving each descendant's unique identity. So they want Bunny to be the fastest. So in this patch, we've adjusted the method used to increase melee weapon speed so that only Bunny can reach a sprint speed of maximum through her skills as originally designed. Melee weapon sprint speed will continue to follow the previous baseline of 1040, but Haley will now only be able to reach up to 1440 when using her skills, and they asked for the understanding in the process. They also addressed an issue which was kind of funny, where with Harris, you could get a ridiculously high level of defense. I think the highest I saw was like 4 million or something like that. Maybe you could even get even higher with that, but it's an unexpected bug and has been fixed. Then, as an apology for this whole situation, they gave out a compensation, which has a catalyst in it, a bunch of boosts in it as well. Just having a free catalyst is kind of nice, but this is kind of just as an apology for all of the mess ups, the bugs, the issues. There's still some bugs and issues, and also some hitching and performance issues in like Albion and Axion in general, but this is their like, hey, we're sorry kind of situation, so you should find this in game. However, keep in mind that this will only be available for the next 2 weeks, basically, and on the 26th of November, the mail will expire, so just make sure you log in and grab it if you have something else going on or you're playing some other game in the meantime. Now, for other fixes, they reduced the frame rate degradation during extended play sessions through program optimization. It seemed like there were some memory leaks going on in general. Most of the issues that I have are in Axion and in Albion, and you may be experiencing something different in your games as well, but they put in some fixes for this. This, again, is one of those things where like, hey, we put in fixes. It may not fix the problem for you, but they're going to keep an eye on it. These things never really go away. Fix an issue where frame rate drops could intermittently occur during Void Erosion Purge gameplay, and also fix an issue where Wall Crasher could be summoned multiple times during due to abnormal access after being defeated. Next, we got a couple fixes for Descendants and some various things here as well. They fixed an issue where Plasma Oscillation and Dark Current was not applied when hitting enemies with a Nez. They fixed a bunch of issues with Harris. Like, she was actually crazy bugged with a bunch of different things, stats, buffs not applying correctly, not having the correct category or tag for abilities and things like that. She was actually one of the more messy releases that we've seen. They also fixed, I don't know if anyone's actually seen this or not, but there was a couple issues where Harris could get stuck in a weird animation and then just start like T-posing and drifting and like floating around like a weird stretch doll or something. It was real freaky to look at, but looks like they fixed that one. And for weapons and modules, they fixed an issue with Pioneer's resolution having an invalid NP option when it rolls. The NP option on existing will remain, but the NP option will not be available when readjusting. So I guess if you have one of the Pioneer's resolution modules and it has NP on it, I guess hold on to it for, I don't know, like sentimental value, because it's just gonna be there forever. They also updated the description for aesthetics of sharing. It was just kind of written wrong. It used to say that it was non-attribute skill power without a modifier, but now it's actually the modifier. So it was always the modifier, it was just a tooltip issue. And to finish it off, a bunch of bug fixes. Again, it has been one of their more unstable updates. Probably this and then like the very first Axiom Planes Season 2 update that we've gotten so far, Season 3, whatever. So there are a bunch of fixes here. We've got one where the Axiom event wouldn't spawn, issues with the Supermassive Receptor, fixed an issue where other Descendant voices would overlap with Amelia's English voice. This happened to me during the S3E2 storyline where just voices were popping in randomly, which was pretty wild. And then some general fixes for like some quest lines that got stuck or wouldn't be able to progress. Fixed an issue where the Supermassive Receptor dungeon wasn't giving weapon and character XP when you kill monsters. Fixed an issue with dashing against the boss of the Supermassive Receptor dungeon, adaptive defense on breach creatures. Fixed an issue where collision would continue to occur even after a monster's death. There's probably going to be more of these as we play, you know, where again, they're not on your client, but the monster's still there on the server. And there's also just some issues with making the collision go away too quickly, but making this better, I think, is good. Other UI UX issues with the exchange ticket for Haley Descendant exchange ticket, collectible count displays, socket type information, mutant cell box C, target rewards, which was actually kind of annoying in the first place. Fix an issue where firearm DPS information would change based on your view module stats settings when inspecting other Descendants. By the way, don't ever use the DPS display on a weapon in game. They're always abhorrently wrong. Whether this is kind of just like a non-issue, but at least you can see why your weapon stats might be changing randomly and all of that. So let me know what you think about these changes. Them finally adding in additional sources of finding materials in other areas, I think is a big win for the game. It is certainly very low-hanging fruit because obviously just making them drop from other activities is like the bare minimum of making the game more varied and interesting, but at least they can kind of keep going down this path and find new ways to create what I would consider like a playground for a looter shooter, which is you make a lot of different things to do with a lot of different rewards and you let people play around on the playground without having to do only one thing over and over until they burn out from the game and stop playing entirely. So more of that stuff coming online is really good. Some changes to the movement speed, some changes to Haley, but let me know what you think about the patch, the changes here, and also how you're enjoying Season 3, Episode 2 down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.